Greetings, fellow cruisers. This is Jeff with Enjoy Life Traveling. Today, we are going to talk about scams, cruise scams. It's something that I've seen a lot of lately, and some personal experiences I was wanting to share, as well as some other things that I've heard from some other people that I know are reliable sources. And so I wanted to take a moment today to delve into that so you don't get scammed. And at the end, I'm going to go through one of them that I almost fell for, but I did fall for it. I was just able to catch it, and I'll save that one to the end. So here we go. One of the things I did on my recent cruise, and I put a video out, was about cruise ducks and finding cruise ducks. And I've got sailing coming up that I was the one that created the Facebook group for. And what I've noticed is that we are getting a ton of people that are trying to put in these scams for cruise ducks, and it's absolutely getting littered with them. And so I end up every day, it seems like multiple times a day, I go in and it gets posted and I ban the people and remove the post. I mean, it's really gotten quite serious, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it other than to try to catch it. And I know that I try really hard to stay on top of that. But obviously you don't know, because they'll put these stories in there that they were planning on going on this cruise and something happened and now they're not able to go. And so they're just trying to do you this big favor, take the ducks off their hands, just, pay postage, which is usually a little high. And that'll do it. And of course, when you do that, you're getting your personal information. So you want to stay away from those, no matter how honest you feel they are. I've seen some of them to where they're posting across multiple groups, because I've always got, like I said, a dozen cruises planned and booked. And so I see it come across. The same people are posting that they're on these cruises and they got these ducks and they can no longer do them, or they have the ducks and, you can go ahead, and if you can, they don't want to just bring them. So you go ahead and you just pay them, and then they'll go ahead and bring the ducks and meet you on the ship. Those kind of things, those are absolute scams. Stay away from them. Again, I don't care how nice they seem or how genuine they seem, just don't do it. So another one you're going to be seeing, and it's one you really want to be aware of, is the online scams that happen. And a lot of times they look so legitimate because they'll be acting like they are maybe a personality that you're aware of from, cruising, and that they are trying to do you a solid and give you this incredible rate, when actually it's a fraudulent site. And of course you put your information in, and you may not get a cruise at all. And in some cases, what they're doing is they might book the cruise with a fee added on that they're keeping when you could have just went directly to them. And you should never have to pay a fee when you're booking a cruise. There are plenty of reputable ones out there. And I would tell you to make absolutely sure that you're using the right one when you're out there and looking for a cruise to book. And this goes the same for some of the new laws that are out there, or potential new laws. So in some areas there are, you may have seen it, the ETIS, and that was supposed to roll out, last year, and it was supposed to roll out this year. And it's been pushed off to 2026. But there are sites out there that will go out of their way to look like a legit site, and they may or may not book you something, but it looks legitimate and they're actually not. So you're looking for things that, when you can research it, that you can see that it's a legitimate site, like you would any other, like a .gov kind of a thing. Doesn't always mean, I guess, that everything is foolproof. There's somebody that figured out a way around something, but just be as cautious as possible when you do your stuff online there, that you're actually talking with the person that is a legitimate source. Another one that I've seen, again, firsthand, I was with a group of friends and they wanted to do snorkeling, and we were in Cozumel. And so I had recommended a place that they consider going. Otherwise, they're welcome to join us. And they were going to join us, and they passed a stand, and it had the name of the place that I was talking about. And before I left them, I said, well, just make sure that they're actually going to take you to that place, because there are some scams out there. And when you're out there at a port, you don't always know who you're dealing with. So make sure, ask them beforehand, are you going here? Well, as it turns out, they didn't ask all the other questions, and things get moving fast, and they seem honest. And it isn't that they necessarily had a bad time, but they didn't get what they were after. They ended up taking them to a different place. And I'm not saying it's that place's fault. I won't even get into the name of the place they ended up taking them, because I don't know for sure what went on and if that place was involved. So it's not fair to put that name out there. But the place was just right there at port before you left, and they had the big, not big tents, but you know what I'm talking about, those outside cubicle things where they're covered up, and got the pictures of all the things that they're trying to get you to do. And yeah, it wasn't what they were actually after. They just used the name and didn't actually have that to give. And there's plenty of places out there that do that, so you want to be very careful about where you're going and be very clear as to what you're looking for. There are some out there that are completely credible, but you can't always count on it. So you got to really make sure that you've got your things settled in. One of them that I've been a part of, nearly scammed, was we had gotten off in the Bahamas, and there was a lady that starts walking up to us. Like if you were in Hawaii and they would put a lei around you. Well, she kind of took on that persona, and she proceeds to stick a bracelet on my wife, and then starts to stick one on me. And I'm saying, "Wait, hang on, what are you doing?" Because I just kind of had that weird feeling, and as she was putting it on, and she just kept going, and I said, "Look, I'm not going to pay for these," because she started talking about money and trying to help people and such like that, and wanted $5 a piece for these things that they had already put on us. And so I was like, no, this isn't right. And so my wife ended up going ahead and giving them $5 for hers, but I was pretty aggravated. And she realized that I was about to get a little bit loud with it. And so she said, "Don't worry about it, no big deal." But this is definitely a scam. And we probably shouldn't have given her the $5 we did. But again, we're on vacation. We're not looking to have a confrontation. And so we just went ahead and paid one of the $5 and let it go at that. But that's definitely something you want to keep an eye out for. Luckily, with a new port in the Bahamas, it's more. There isn't all the pushy people that are right there. You really have to sort of leave that new gate that they've got to get into the area that is out of port. And they do a great job now in port, and it doesn't mean that there's necessarily going to be a problem out of port. This is one person with one little stand that was trying to pull a scam off. So it doesn't mean that if you go there, you have to worry. I'm just saying, beware of what you're getting. Another one I've seen a lot of, and this is definitely a scam, and I've kind of touched on this in some other videos, not necessarily as a scam, but just the thing to look out for, is you'll see a whole lot of these people they'll be dressed in a kind of a cultural thing, get up, and will be maybe even performing. But if you're there and you are watching them, and particularly if you're trying to take pictures, you can expect that they're going to want money. Obviously, it may not be the case every time, but there's been some confrontations over this to where it's almost like they're acting like you've cheated them because they're not getting the money and you're taking a picture with them. And that even goes if it's not directly, if they're like just in the background somewhere and you try to hold the phone up and get them in the background. That's also been something to where they have been aggressive and come over and said, "Hey, that's my picture. You owe me money. I want however much, for this." And obviously that's not what anybody's intending. So you really want to be careful about what you're taking pictures of, because it can come into something that would be a confrontation. And obviously you're on vacation. That's not what you're after. But that is a way that some of these guys that are just wearing an outfit can take advantage and try to get money from you. Because again, if they're making a scene, a lot of times if the money's not too much, $5 again or whatever, you just want the problem to go away because you're on vacation. So don't get taken for 5 or 10 or whatever the amount is. Don't do it. And if you get caught, hold your ground, because you can be out some serious money. Another scam that's out there that would relate to photos is that there are people out there that are looking to volunteer to take your picture, and they may actually be not just trying to volunteer to take it, but be wanting to charge you for it. And that can be in obviously many forms, including if they're wanting to offer to send you these pictures, and they take a bunch of pictures, even that more than you wanted, and then they send them to you because you've given them obviously that information, and now they're demanding payment for all these pictures, and you don't want all these pictures. You wanted 1 or you wanted 2. And so even if they let you know up front that they were looking to make a little bit of money off of it, then if you're getting all of a sudden 100 pictures and they're wanting however much a piece for them, you can end up a lot of money out of pocket there. And obviously, if there's a potential for an agreement, you don't want to have to turn into a court thing, because that's a pain in the butt even if you win. So, and believe me, I've seen some hard times, which we'll get to. Another scam I've seen only too much of is the people that are trying to get romantically involved with you. This can be on any platform. It doesn't even really matter if it's a cruise, but I've definitely seen it there, to where they're claiming to come on a cruise, or they see you in some general chat even for a cruise. And so now all of a sudden they want you to PM them. And then once you message them, they're trying to just like start this romance kind of thing that's not real. And I won't even give them my information. I will not PM them at all, because as soon as I see it, I'll just say, well, a lot of times I've seen this one so many times, and that is, hey, I've got a question. You seem like you really, know about this, so could you PM me? Sometimes I'm seeing these in things that I posted a year ago, and they're saying, hey, PM me, I've got this question. Regardless, what I always say is, just post your question here. I'll be happy to answer. We don't need to PM. Just let me know right here what your question is, and I'll answer it. And they never leave a question. They don't. They'll go again, because, well, I had some details, so I was hoping to talk about it, just privately. I'm not going to answer it. I'm not going to do it. So I will give some benefits of the doubt, but most of the time, when it comes to private messaging, because there's so many things that people can do to get your money, I just won't get out. Even if it's Facebook, I won't do it. I've had people suggest that I get, the WhatsApp. I don't use WhatsApp, or some of these other ones, and we'll talk there. You look really nice. I'm not answering any of that. I'm not. So, and don't you. Doesn't matter if you're single. I'm married, but if you're single, I'm telling you, this is not the way to go. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. The scam is going to be out there. Another scam that I've been seeing is whether people are acting like they are a part of the cruise line. They can do that just by finding, if you're planning on cruising, a lot of times you put some stuff out on Facebook, and then people can just use the stuff that you've got on Facebook, any of that information, and use that. But what they're doing is that they'll find a way to contact you and then say that, hey, there's an outstanding balance for this or that, and call this number to get it taken care of or to discuss. And it's a complete scam. There is no extra money owed. Sometimes they may call it like a docking fee or some other fee along with that would go with cruising that maybe sounds like it's legitimate. They obviously are going to sound professional. They're going to sound like they know what they're talking about, and they're going to lightly threaten that, okay, well, if you do this, your cruise will get canceled and we'll refund your money and whatever. They're going to make it sound very legit and put that pressure on you to do it. And I'm telling you, don't do it. I would tell you, first of all, don't even bother calling the number they gave you. Call the people that you booked it with. So if you did it through the cruise line, call the cruise line. If you did it through your travel agent, call the travel agent and let the travel agent know what's going on, and let them do some work on it, because it shouldn't be happening. And the same thing goes when you're getting off the cruise and making sure that if someone says, hey, there was some money on there, we meant to stop you when you were getting off, but now you owe us. That's been a thing to where people are contacting them saying, hey, there was a fee that we didn't get from you. And so they're wanting it. And again, people are paying it. And I realize some may be watching this going, well, I would never do that. And a lot of times the people that get scammed are thinking the same thing. I would never do that. But when you got that pressure, you're not expecting it, and you're just trying to be helpful. I've made the mistake before on things not even related to cruising, to where I've kind of went to a snap judgment of trying to answer somebody, and then realized a little bit after the fact, I'm like, wait a minute, why did I do that? And luckily, the one I have in mind turned out to be legitimate, but it was one of those where I look back and go, why did I do that? That made no sense for me to give out that information. So be careful. Again, it's so easy for even someone who's pretty savvy to get worked up in a moment for someone that sounds legitimate, to catch you just the right time, and you get stuck. So make sure, again, that you know who you're dealing with and who's making the call. Another thing to think about, and it's not something that necessarily happens often, but at least to a harsh degree, but that is taking advantage of someone's key card. And a lot of times, you get your credit card hooked to that, and so they're able to, if they take that card, whether you've turned your back from a slot machine, or a lot of times, of course, you're embarking and it's on your door. Once they get that card, it's very easy for them to go ahead and charge something. And the same thing goes if they know the room number. A lot of times on embarkation, they'll just ask what the room number is. And so if you're shouting out what your room number is, they can make it look like they were with you even, and then they order another drink after you've turned your back, and the next thing you know, you're getting charged for it. And you've certainly heard stories, I'd imagine, of people that's found out that there's drinks on their card that they didn't have. Or maybe they've got the drink package, but the person who was ordering it ordered something that was really expensive, that was beyond that. So those are little things that you can kind of look for. That's a matter of checking your account pretty much daily, just to see what's on it, to make sure that you're not charged for something you shouldn't be. Through Royal Caribbean, that's a very easy task to do. It's on there pretty much immediately, so you can just go to your account and you should be able to see everything that's on there, no matter who in your party has done it. If you're the one who's kind of, I won't say in charge, but if you're the main one that's on the account, that you can see what's being done on that account and where that money is going. So do keep an eye out for that. Don't spend a lot of time worrying about it, but do keep an eye out for it. Another cruise scam that I've seen personally was when you try to resell a cruise. I saw this through a cruise that I did that was a chartered cruise. But you can't resell a cruise. If you have to, it's not the way it works. So if someone's trying to sell you a cruise, you've got to go through the cruise line, or in the case of the chartered cruise, you have to go through the people that are in charge of that chartered cruise. You can't just, if someone says, "Hey, I've got this cruise, I'll just turn it over to you." Don't fall for that. You can't do that. That's not something that's available to you. Another thing that I see a lot of, you've probably heard me talk about using resortpass.com. That's a reputable site that I've personally used to get, some really inexpensive time at a resort. And I believe in it. It's not sponsored. I'm just telling you about it. There are places that will try to take advantage of you. A lot of times, just maybe even when you're getting off the ship, and try to tell you that they've got these passes and they're super cheap, or maybe you have to watch a presentation in some cases, getting it free. They may not be legitimate. So I would tell you that, if you don't have a reliable source that you're getting it from, that I would probably just avoid that altogether. Yet another example of a scam will be a lot of times if you're in port, there might be people that are showing their artwork, whether it be something like a painting, or maybe it's some other seashell that they say that they've painted, or a piece of wood that they're claiming that they've carved, that it's like a one-of-a-kind thing that you're getting. And so you see it, and maybe they've even got a setup that looks like they've actually just, that they're painting, maybe they've got a paint setup. Doesn't mean that they necessarily painted it. And that's one of those things that I've seen, to where you're buying something at a price that looks homemade. And again, maybe it's a painting, and they're wanting $20, $40, whatever the price is. And then you go down a little farther, and there's maybe another person down there that's got the exact same painting, and they're trying to sell it also. And then maybe you go again a whole different direction, and you go into a store that's from that area, and you can see that same thing that'll be there, and it's $5 because it's a print and not an actual painting of what that person had done. And so again, those are scams that you got to look out for. Don't buy on emotion. You want to try to really think about what you're getting. And I mean, if you just like the painting, then you may not care one way or the other. But you could also be getting scammed if someone looks like they're legitimate, and maybe they're not. And sometimes it may even, if you look closer, they might not even have, the paints might not even be used. It's just a box that's open, but it hasn't actually had any water, or hasn't actually had the brush touch it. So again, those are kind of things that you might be able to look for to help. And just be careful. Also, how you pay for it. If they're wanting cash, that's fine. If they're wanting, a credit card, a lot of times you have a little bit more protection, but that's really got its own thing. And as a matter of fact, I'll use that right now to lead into one of the scams that happened to us, and we did not get it. We got screwed. And this was, I want to say, was it last year, the year before? We were in Cozumel, and a lot of times you can get, if you go to Mexico, you can get medications very cheap. So, for example, we've seen this, amoxicillin, legitimate amoxicillin, get a whole bunch of these tablets. It's like $5, and versus trying to buy something like that in the U.S. Or the Z-Packs that cost, I want to say like $150 even with insurance. They're like $15, but it's legitimate. Well, on this scam, we had went in because I'm thinking, well, this is a great opportunity to stock up on some stuff. And so you go in there, and the lady, she just starts swiping this card and swiping the card and swiping the card. And it's like, I'm having trouble getting this to go through. I'm swiping a card. And I'm like, stop. And I took the card. I'm like, all right, what are you doing? This does not need to be swiped. We've not had that many problems. What's going on? And so, well, yeah, it's not registered. So I have to keep swiping if you're going to get this. And I just know. And my wife, she was behind me, says, yeah, we're not doing this. And she pushed the medicine away and just said, we're out of here, and canceled the transaction. We didn't sign anything. And so we ended up getting these charges, and there was a whole bunch of them that was on there from this swiping. I'm going to say 6 or 7 that went through. Two amounts. One was like 100, one was like 200. Nothing we were buying was that much. And so we got the credit card statement, and we had said, hey, this is fraudulent. And so we put out the information saying, hey, we did not do this, and explained over the phone exactly what happened. And they ended up coming down to having just one charge on it. But it was still, I think it was like $100, $150. And we told them, I said, look, this is, thanks for getting rid of the other ones, but this one's not real. And they said, well, yeah, they'd said there was a problem that this one is real, and it's showing that there's a signature. Well, the signature wasn't me. It was just a scribble. Not that I don't scribble, but it wasn't my scribble. And so they said, yeah, they're claiming that this one's real, and so therefore, you're going to have to pay it unless you want to challenge it. And I said, well, absolutely, I want to challenge it because it's not real. And so they end up getting the information. They talk to them. The vendor from that area takes till the absolute last minute, which is like a month, to send a thing back, and it's these pages I'm supposed to answer, and it's all in Spanish. Everything's in Spanish. So I don't even know what the questions are. And so I'm writing through there in my language that this is what happened, and this is that it wasn't me, and it was swiped, and explaining all that in there in my language, because I don't even know what the hell the thing says. And so I send this back to the bank company and said, this is what happened. I'm telling you, this wasn't me. Well, I don't know what the hell the thing said, but apparently that was not enough to get it. So we ended up getting charged, and they just dropped it. I'm sorry, you have to pay it, gone. And it wasn't right. So I don't think about trying to buy a whole lot with my credit card unless I'm really, really comfortable doing something. I'd rather just have cash. And normally I do just cash when I'm over there. If they take that, that's probably the direction I'm going to go. So, and again, depending on what you want to do, I see that question all the time. Well, how much do you take? Well, what are you planning on buying? So if you're planning on buying some stuff and food and whatever, plan accordingly. Anyway, off on a tangent. I would tell you to do cash rather than swiping a credit card unless you're very comfortable with the source that you're swiping at when you're overseas. Another scam that I've seen, and you may have seen this one because I believe it was JJ Cruise that was first to put this out there, because they were actually on the cruise when it happened. And a lot of times, like when you're on the cruise ship, there may be an assumption that those different places you're buying stuff from are from the cruise company, but a lot of times they're not. And so there was a situation to where they had reported someone was looking at a watch. The person behind the counter had said that if they wanted to get a better look at it, they could take out some links, and then that way they could try it on and see, if that was really a fit for them. And so they proceeded to say, okay, and they take out the links and they put it in the watch on the man, and the guy says, okay, well, thank you, but I don't want it. And apparently what happened is that the company had a fit, that guy behind the counter, and said, well, we've already taken the links out, so you have to buy it. Again, you don't always want to make a stink, and from what I understand, they tried to go to guest services. Guest services kind of threw their arms up on it because they don't, it's not them, so to speak. They're renting that space out to another company. And so they ended up really turned into quite the ordeal. And I think that they ended up, the cruise company worked something out, and the bottom line is they believe they got their money back. But it just goes to show that you have to kind of watch it even on a cruise ship, because I'm not saying it happens everywhere or something that you have to be concerned about, but I would definitely make sure that if you are trying something on and they are doing anything to it, that you are crystal clear that you are not interested in buying it. If they'd like to try it on, maybe you would consider it, but that you're absolutely not buying it because of that change. So again, keep that in mind. So another one I want to talk about, and this one kind of leads into what I was getting to when I first started talking, which was the taxi scams. Taxis, and you may have heard this, sometimes taxis are not taxis. They may look like it, but they're not. They're just people out there working. And this was one of them that, well, first of all, let me go back. You have to be careful, obviously, about what you're doing, where you're getting in. There's all kinds of bad things that can go wrong. And I was really quite fortunate, along with another couple, that this wasn't worse than what it was. But here's the story. So I'm coming out of the airport, getting ready to go on a cruise the day before. I've got to get to the hotel. And so I'm just outside of the doors where you would maybe catch a taxi. And I'm fumbling through my phone and all the luggage I've got, and I'm trying to find the address of the place that I'm going to, so I can put it in Uber or Lyft and do that. And not that I'm opposed to taking a taxi, but that was what the plan was. And this guy sticks his head in, the door, and he's looking around like he's looking for somebody. And he says, "Hey, are you looking for a taxi?" And I said, "Well, I was trying to find this place here in the hotel, and I was gonna just take an Uber or Lyft." And he said, "Okay, well, I'm a taxi. If you want to, get a ride, I'll go ahead and take you now." And I said, "Okay." So I start gathering my stuff, and as I'm walking out, I'm looking, and there's a van there, and it's not marked, and the side door's open, and there's another couple in there that are clearly not, they're clearly passengers in the back. And he proceeds to put my luggage in, and I start questioning him, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up with that?" And he says, "Oh yeah, now I've got it." So I'm getting in, and I start talking to him. He pulls out immediately, and I said, "Oh, so you guys are going to the same place too?" And the driver says, yeah, they're going on a cruise too. And I said, "Oh, okay." And so I started talking about the ship, thinking, "Oh well, they're just staying at the same hotel, and he just got room." All right, well, let's start talking this out. And they said, "Yeah, well, they're going on a completely different cruise ship." And I said, "Okay, well, so are you going to this hotel?" "No, we're going to the beach." And so I turned to the guy and I says, "Well, what are you doing here? Because I don't want to, I don't want to go to the beach." And he said, "Oh yeah, I'll get you there. And what I'll do is I'll take those guys first. I'll drop them off, then I'll reset the meter for you." And there's no meter. So I look, and there's really no meter. He's just got his phone out with it's measuring time. And I said, "Now you realize this looks a little awkward, right?" And he looks at me funny, and I was like, "Yeah, I mean that's not normally how you do business. I'm just saying, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong, but it at least sounds a little bit odd at the outset." And he said, "No, it's totally legit here." I said, "This is an upscale cab or an upscale, what do you call it? Upscale travel service here. And so, yeah, we try to give, a nicer ride to people. And the van is not necessarily nice." And so I ask about, this upscale thing. He says, "Yeah, well," he says, "our base charge is $24. That's just to get in. And then there's whatever the mileage is after that." And of course, the three of us now are like, "What?" Because he didn't say anything about that. And I said, "That again, I just told you that didn't sound good. And now you're telling me these extra fees that you didn't say beforehand." And he says, "Oh yeah, that's how we do it. That's how we do it." And I said, "Okay, well, I'm not good with that. That's not what we talked about." And he says, "Okay, well, I'll take you back and then take these other guys on. And I says, well, if you want, because if they're still interested in going, go to the beach and then I'll just get out there, because we'd already driven a little bit, and I'll get out there and I'll get someone who's, who I'm comfortable with, but I don't want you driving me to where I'm going. And then the other couple starts chiming in about this, and the guy starts getting flustered, and he's trying to find someone else to take us while we're on the road. He's rolling down his window talking to guys that are drivers, wanting to know if they want to take us on. And they said, they're busy, they had somebody, no. And so he said, I'm taking you both back. And so he drives us, turns around and takes us back to the airport. And now we just walked to the taxi stand that we should have done beforehand and just gotten a taxi, or in my case, a Lyft, whatever. But I didn't do that, and the other couple didn't do that. And so it was one of those moments to where, the guy could have been shadier than that. It could have been much worse. I should know better than to get into a van that is unmarked. So it was really foolish on my part, obviously foolish on their part, but it was a lesson, and it was a lesson that luckily didn't cost us anything but time. Because we obviously didn't pay anything, and he took off. I couldn't get a license fast enough. As soon as we grabbed our luggage, he didn't get out to help. As soon as we're taking out our luggage, he took off. So he did not want his license plate noted or anything. But it goes to show how you have to be careful on anything like that. And the same thing would go true, again, this was in the U.S. This is, I think, Port Canaveral, I want to say I was in. It was Orlando. We went into Orlando. Obviously they're going to take you out there. But anyway, the trip was Port Canaveral. And so, it was an opportunity to learn. That wasn't too bad. But when you're traveling abroad, one of the scams that I've seen, and it's happened personally, is that, and I'll use Cozumel as the example, is that when you get off at whatever the port is in Cozumel, there's a sign up there that says how much it costs to get you to the place that you're going. And there's a person there that will so let you know, and they hail a taxi, and then you go. On the way back, he tried to, once I got back to the place, he says, it's X amount. It was like $5 more. And I says, no, wait a minute. They said that, this was here coming back. He says, well, it's different. And I said, no, it's not different. And I started getting, I was early into cruising, and I was upset. And when my voice elevated, he was like, no, it's good. And it went away. The problem went away, and he gave him the money, and that's it. But another one that I've seen with the same thing is to make sure that you have correct change, because a lot of times the taxis, you're in Mexico, you're giving them US dollars. And if you don't have exact change, including a tip, and I usually tip, they're not going to a lot of times have tip money, or they're not going to have change for you. So if you've got, a cab ride, and you're in Costa Maya, say, where you got a $4 or $5 per person ride, and you're just driving there on your own, or maybe it's you and your significant other, and it's $10, and you got a 20 on you, and you're expecting them to have change, and good chance they're going to go, I'm sorry, I don't have change. And if you go, well, I'm going to go get it, he says, no, I got to go get somebody else. You need to give me the money. And if all you got is 20, you've just got a $20 cab ride instead of a $10 cab ride with maybe a couple bucks tip. So be careful when you're doing that thing. Obviously, there's a lot of scams out there, and there's no way anybody can cover them in one video, because there's just too many people, unfortunately, in this world that are trying to scam you. So be careful. Use your common sense. Also use your senses. If it doesn't feel right, even if it turns out to be right, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. But have a happy cruise. Don't spend your time worrying. Just be careful, and we will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.